Good morning, Dr. Scott.
Good morning, Mike.
So, you and I are both from the Midwest. And so I would like to mention most people don't know this about me, but I am quite an accomplished sailor. I spent one semester with the Iowa State University Sailing Club, um, little FJs on the lakes. And so I thought I was pretty accomplished as a sailor. And so when I heard that there was a sailing vet, I thought they might have been talking about me. But it turns out there's somebody else who is vastly more accomplished than I
Qualified
am.
to earn that title.
And so that's who we're going to be talking to today, and not the guy who spent a couple of weeks on a lake in Iowa. Welcome to the Vets Unleashed,
where we gather animal professionals and animal enthusiasts to discuss the most pressing, silly, and interesting topics in the animal kingdom. I'm Dr. Scott.
And I'm Dr. Mike. And we're joined today by Dr. Sheddy. Hi, Dr. Sheddy.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. You'll be happy to know you had more experience than I did when I bought the boat, so you can still do it.
Wow. So you were not a sailor your whole life. You literally bought a sailboat and learned.
Yeah,
Wow.
This was the first sailboat I'd ever been on, and I moved on board and was like, okay, I'll figure this out, I guess.
Well, I was kidding, but it turns out I really am an accomplished sailor then. Wow. So we saw you.
Before we get into everything you do, how did you learn how to sail? Like, talk about jumping in feet first.
Yeah, so my partner at the time really wanted a sailboat, and I was really keen to travel more. And so I was like, okay, yeah, we'll do the sailboat thing. And it was a bit of a initiation of fire, like, you know, being a veterinarian, though we're kind of used to that, I think, from graduation and getting into the clinics and things. So yeah, I basically learned on the job. And now I'm the captain and know a lot more about sailing than I did.
Wow. And so how long have you been sailing now?
I've had this boat for 7 years now. So it's been, 7 years on board.
And so are you Dr. Captain or Captain Doctor?
I can never decide. I think Captain Doctor sounds better, but I do want to make a shirt that says, you know, like, call me the Captain Doctor or call me the Doctor Captain or something like that.
Like, reading about it, you sail from town to town and, you know, take care of, like, bring veterinary care to places that are underserved, it seems like. What made you think to start doing this? And, like, how and why do you do this? It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so I was working as a small animal veterinarian and a wildlife veterinarian in Australia before moving to China to work solely with wildlife. So I'd already kind of given up a lot of the things like the house and the furniture and the car and things when I made the move to China. So it wasn't such a big stretch to then move onto a boat. But I was feeling a little bit disillusioned with the veterinary industry and, the sometimes morally compromising positions we're put in where we're not able to do perhaps the best treatments we would like to do. And so I basically decided that I wanted to be able to treat those animals that may not get treatment otherwise. And I wanted to be able to do the best treatments that I could. And I recognized that that generally meant doing treatments for free. So I established the organization we now have to basically, deliver free veterinary care to remote communities, but also to do training with local veterinarians and local animal staff and to help out already established organizations that may just need an extra pair of hands or an extra veterinarian, to help improve the welfare and health of animals in, like you said, under-resourced areas in particular.
How much do you work with, other organizations then? It sounds like your charity supports, your nonprofit supports your work, and you're there to help out animals wherever you can, which is such a beautiful thing. How much is working with other groups versus the work that you do on your boat or on the shores you land on?
Yeah, so the vast majority we do from the boat, but we try to work with local veterinarians wherever it's possible. So a lot of the communities we visit are boat access only, and they don't have a doctor, let alone a veterinarian, in the community. They're generally very small. So when we're in those areas, we tend to just be working off the boat. But when we're trying to do larger projects, like, for example, we have a spay and neuter clinic coming up in around a month in one of these remote access villages. We're working with local vets to try and get them to come in as well to help do the spay and neuter, and make it a little bit of a larger project and a bit more of a community project. And the reason for that's twofold. One is obviously we don't want to be taking work from local veterinarians. And although these are animals that aren't generally going to these veterinarians, there's still animals in the region. But also we want to try, I guess our ultimate goal is that we're not going to have to be there anymore. So we try to set up the local veterinarians to be able to continue the projects after we're gone, because we recognize the nature of a sailboat means we're not going to be in the same spot forever. So the kind of ultimate goal is to set them up with the resources they need to continue to do the animal health campaigns that we might have set up.
Gotcha.
And that's consistently, or your organization supports that even when your sailboat's not there?
Yeah, so we still fund projects in other areas. So I guess I should clarify, we're not a registered nonprofit, so that's why I tend to use the word organization.
Okay.
We're a two-man team. It's me and it's me and my boyfriend Jim, and we operate off a really small budget. So registering as a charity, requires a lot of paperwork and a lot of there's costs involved, and also we're operating in countries that aren't our home countries. There's just a lot of complications. So we operate although we operate as a nonprofit, we aren't a registered charity nonprofit. But all of our funding does go towards the animal work. So my partner and I basically volunteer, and all of our funding that we get through YouTube, we kind of use YouTube as our base to get the word out there. And then funding comes through Patreon and other means. We use all that to basically keep the boat going, because boats aren't the cheapest form of transport, but it's really good for what we're doing because we can get to remote places. And then obviously towards the medical and surgical care of the animals, and doing things like funding the local veterinarians to be involved. So in Puerto Madero, we set up the first spay and neuter campaigns and vaccination campaigns in the region, and it's a very small, under-resourced community in Chiapas in southern Mexico. And we worked with one of the local veterinary students who grew up in the town. And so we did training with her, and we still continue to provide mentorship, but we also, more importantly, provide funding to her. So she now does all of the spay and neuter and vaccine campaigns in the area. And we're really proud of her. She does an amazing job. She's opened her own clinic. We provide the monthly funding for her to be able to do that work. So it's really cool to see it kind of continuing on, even though we've been gone over almost 2 years now. So, yeah.
I'm curious to know, how did you decide? So you're Australian, I'm assuming, from the accent. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So,
That's right.
Arstralian,
Arkansas, right?
And then
Yeah.
and then moved to China. How did you decide on the Mexican Pacific as the area that you were going to sail around? I mean, seems like with the sailboat you could pretty much go anywhere in the world. So why there?
Yeah, I'd love to pretend there was something really profound, but it was where there was a cheap boat for sale in Panama. And so the decision was based on that. So there was a cheap boat that suited what we were looking for in Panama. And so moved there. As it turned out, there was a good reason the boat was so cheap. And so she really needed a lot of work. And so the closest, most affordable spot to do a lot of sailboat work was Mexico. So basically, we brought the boat up the coast over a few years, and then eventually got it to Mexico and did a major refit. And so we've been in Mexico since then. It's a really big country, Mexico. So, as you're going up and down the Pacific coast, you're like, oh, it just keeps going and going and going. So we've found that we've been here longer than expected.
Tell us a bit about the boat.
So her name's Chuffed, which is, for those of you that don't know, is Australian kind of British slang for happy or pleased. So I did rename her. So that's why she's Chuffed. And it works very well for our slogan. So we're like, get chuffed and help animals, or stay chuffed from helping animals, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's a 37-foot aluminium sloop. And she has a lifting keel, so it means we can go into really shallow waters, and we can also go to areas that aren't very well charted because the risk of us hitting the bottom is much lower. And because she's aluminium, she's very strong. So she has hit rocks before, and we've deliberately beached her before, and she's fine. So she's a pretty tough boat. So some of these areas we're going aren't that well frequented. And so it's nice that we can do these reconnaissance projects where we can go in and explore where to anchor, but then also, visit these small communities that may not get very many visits otherwise.
And you get around mostly under sail?
Yeah, well, we try and sail whenever we can. We do have a motor, and sometimes it has to be used. It is not very fun because it's a diesel motor, and we go really slow, like 5 to 6 miles per hour, and it's really loud. But we generally do try to sail whenever we can. So it's a little harder because we do animal projects. Most people who are sailing plan purely around the weather, whereas we have to also plan around the fact that we may have something scheduled and try to be there on time. So, sometimes we are forced to just motor, 4 or 5 hours because we just need to get somewhere. But we usually try to plan with the wind if we're able to.
And then it looks like what you do is you line up like the surgical clinic that's happening. You line it up and then they know the dates that you'll be back. Do you use social media, or I'm imagining some of the areas are probably not the most connected areas of the world globally. So how do you let people know you're coming?
Now there is, with the invention of some of the new kind of satellite internet, we are actually getting better and better connected with everybody, which is nice. But in the past, in particular, a lot of the communities, we just kind of turn up the first time. So we basically just go with really basic supplies like worming, flea and tick medicine, and just kind of walk around the town saying that we're basically going to be doing some free, health checks for the animals, and that we have some free worming and tick products, and essentially just get to know the community. Sometimes we have been put in touch with like a delegate from the community in advance where, somebody's been through the area and knows somebody who knows somebody, and we kind of get the phone number for one person who organizes everything in the community, and we can touch base before we get there. But generally our projects are kind of 3-phase, where we do like a reconnaissance mission to begin with that's a bit more basic. We don't bring as much material, and it's more just to get an idea of the health status of the animals, what they need, and what the community might be looking for. And then kind of phase 2 of the project is going with, vaccination, spay and neuter, that kind of thing. And then phase 3 generally is follow-up and trying to see if we can establish either us returning or, other veterinarians returning, that kind of thing. So we kind of try to work along those lines to get it out there that we're coming. But most of the communities communicate via radio because they're fishing villages, and so most of the guys are out on their fishing boats with a handheld radio. So we have actually announced our arrival via radio a few times, which is kind of fun. So because you're on the VHF calling.
That's pretty cool.
I really like the idea. It's the work you're doing then is sustainable, right? Because you can go anywhere in the world. So you're establishing these relationships, you're helping build up the local community. And when they're self-sufficient, you can move on and keep doing this, probably indefinitely.
Yeah, that's the goal. And I mean, for the most part, our main limit is funding, because obviously the more communities we build where we're funding local veterinarians, the more the base cost is when we're not doing projects ourselves. But that's one of the reasons, a lot of people, when they've had a boat 7 years, have, just about taken it around the world, whereas I've only just taken it from Panama up the coast. But it's because it does take time to establish these things. It sometimes can be a slow process. It's a lot of organizing. We're at the whim of the weather too. And so, for example, when there's hurricanes, we kind of have to hunker down for 4 months during hurricane season and aren't doing so many projects, things like that. So we're kind of happy to move slow and, like you said, make it as sustainable as possible for us as well, because, as a 2-person organization doing video editing, social media, multiple veterinary projects, all of that, where we're keeping a boat afloat, captaining, we wear a lot of hats, and so it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm sure you guys understand the side hustle of having multiple projects.
It's a lot. Absolutely. Let's take a quick break. I have so many more questions. Do you work with physicians, and what animals do you see, and how'd you get started? And then I know you've got another project that you're working on too, which I absolutely want to hear about. But let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll toast to everything. Oh yeah, we have a drink. Holy cow, I forgot. You want to do the drink real quick? So I don't know if you got the thing or if you made the drink, but I did this morning, and it is called the Sailor's Delight. Yeah, red sky at night, right? That's the saying, I think. And
Yep.
it is
No red skies in the morning.
I think that's correct. So it's rum and pineapple and lime juice and grenadine. And I made one, I'm going to admit I made it, and it was like not great. So I actually took half of the rum out and put in Malibu rum to make it a little coconuttier. So let's toast to the sailing life real quick. Cheers.
To Dr.
Cheers.
Sheddy and the Sailing Life.
I've got a water bottle. Cheers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting a 3-day fast, so I will not also be doing that with alcohol.
Oh, it's good. Mm.
Is it?
Yeah, that means I have to have 3.
Did you say... Oh, there's pineapple juice in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds good.
It's Friday. It's your day off, Dr. Mike. You deserve it.
That's right. Yeah, for sure. Hi, this is Dr. Mike, the Bowtie Vet Guy. Thanks for tuning in to The Vets Unleashed. If you want to find out more about us or our guests, or to leave an amazing review, head on over to thevetsunleashed.com or find us on Instagram or Facebook at The Vets Unleashed. There you'll find information on the podcast, how to be a guest, and our lecture series and speaking availability. Now let's get back to the show.
All right. We are back with Dr. Sheddy, the Sailing Vet, learning a lot about how you're giving back to the veterinary community and to the animals that you're serving. And Dr. Mike, you had a ton of questions that you left left on the table before the break. Where should we start with those?
What animals do you mostly see, and do you work with these remote areas? It sounds like, I don't know if they have a physician there as well. Do you work with the physicians? I mean, what kind of, are you involved in the One Health, projects, and how does that all fit into what you do?
Yeah, so at the moment, we're mostly working with dogs and cats, but as you know, I was a wildlife veterinarian. So particularly in Costa Rica and Panama, where there's more wildlife hospitals, we were doing a lot of work with the wildlife hospitals there, with just helping with like more complicated surgical cases, more advanced treatments and that kind of thing, and also doing a lot of husbandry training with enrichment and things like that, because as you know, enrichment's really important for captive wildlife, and it wasn't something that was being practiced as much in some of the areas down there. But since coming to Mexico, we've been doing a lot more domestic animals. There have been cases of rabies in cattle in Mexico in recent years, and they also have had outbreaks of Rocky Mountain spotted fever that has actually affected and killed some children and adults in the communities. So basically, I guess it's become really important for us. The project obviously is really focused on animal health, but as we all know, One Health is really important, and the health of our pets affects the health of the ecosystem and affects the health of the humans. So that's something we really try to reiterate to people. When we're giving rabies vaccinations to all of the dogs and cats, we're also potentially helping prevent the spread of rabies to wild animals and to livestock, but also to the human population. And the same goes with like flea and tick medicine. Not everyone realizes that flea and tick medicine can be so important, not just for the pet's health, because of all the extra diseases that they can bring with them as well. We do see a lot of cases of Ehrlichia here. It's very common. But then also things like the Rocky Mountain spotted fever, which is then spreading to the human population. And because it's not very common down here, it's not very well recognized. And as you mentioned, a lot of these places don't have human physicians, which means that it's hard for them to get to human doctors as well. So, doing everything we can to prevent the spread of all these communicable diseases is really important. In terms of working with human physicians, we actually did have a retired emergency doctor help with our last vaccination campaign. He was drawing up all my vaccines for me, so that was fun. He was a fellow sailor, so we put him to work. But for the most part, we're just doing the veterinary work. It is a dream of mine one day that perhaps we would have like a larger boat where we could take volunteers like veterinary students and veterinary technicians and other vets and doctors and, make it a larger organization. But, that takes time, funding, and, the things that we're sometimes short of. But, maybe one day it would be really cool to do that. Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
I
Well,
am an
add us to the
accomplished
list.
sailor.
We're
you know.
definitely on board.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And I'm also curious, did you and your boyfriend speak Spanish before you went there? I'm assuming not. So how are your Spanish skills? Was that a trial by fire as well?
Yeah, very much so. So, my partner and I met in Costa Rica, and he already spoke some Spanish from living there for 2 years, but was also fairly new to it. And yeah, definitely, I've just kind of another thing that I've learned on the job has been my Spanish skills. But yeah,
Medical
7 years on,
Spanish.
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, 7 years
Oof.
on, they're pretty good now. And thankfully, particularly with like anatomy and like some of the words like vomito, it's not so hard to make the transition. So a lot of the Latin derived words have similarities. So at least you can kind of cheat a little bit with that.
It's cool. And you said that wildlife needs enrichment, but also I kept thinking like captive veterinarians probably need enrichment as well.
Yeah, on a sailboat.
Yes.
or just in Los Angeles, either one. I mean, no matter where you are. Which kind of got us to you have another project, a retreat that you're working on, and tell us about that.
Yeah. So I guess along with making this change to do the free veterinary care, there was a reason I left the veterinary industry and was pursuing all these kind of alternative pathways. And it was because I was feeling a little bit disillusioned. There was a period of time where I was working 50-50 in a small animal clinic and at a wildlife hospital. And I thought it was going to be my dream job because I was like, oh, this would be really cool. I'm still exposed to, the gold standard of being in a large small animal hospital, and then
Yeah.
also getting to work with the wildlife. And so, I'm growing all my skills. But I started to get a little bit disillusioned because we would have, for example, a koala come in with a broken, broken arm, for want of a better word, and we would provide free treatment to that koala, and sometimes that could be like quite advanced, expensive surgical treatment with plating and pinning, and with an orthopedic surgeon and all this stuff. And then I would get to the small animal clinic and I would have a puppy come in with the same injury, and we wouldn't be able to offer gold standard because it was based on how much the owner could pay for their treatment. Right. And so it became, I guess, it was highlighted maybe a little more clearly to me because I was going between those two environments. I was like, I'm treating this animal for free and then I'm charging this animal. And it was just very difficult to make that change all the time. And I understand why that exists and everything, but the moral injury to myself was getting higher and higher. And then also the burnout, you're pulling 60-hour weeks. The thing with working 50-50 was I was somehow doing, almost full-time hours at both clinics instead of truly 50-50. So, I was pulling really long hours. I was in charge of the social media for the wildlife hospital. I just kept taking on more and more, which I think is really common for veterinarians because we are high achievers and we want to help. I basically got really burnt out. And so I knew I needed to take a step back and reevaluate my priorities, which is part of the reason that I started doing my own organization so that I could really take control of, how many hours I worked and what I was doing. So I'm really passionate about that. And I've done over the last years, done a lot of, just self-growth with, my own therapy and doing meditation and practicing mindfulness and things like that. So I think it was I have an email to a friend who's a yoga teacher in 2021 saying, I have this idea about like offering veterinary retreats where vets can come and get a vacation while earning some continued education points, but really have it focused on well-being because that's one thing being in Central America and in Mexico is I've seen a lot of yoga retreat centers and, seeing how much they can change people's outlook and really help them. So it's taken a few years to develop, but yeah, I'm now offering veterinary retreats. So we have our first one coming up in August and it's been race approved so that people get 8 continued education for credits for veterinarians and veterinary technicians. But I guess more importantly, it's also teaching a lot of the tools to equip veterinarians to be able to cope better and build resilience in what can be a really stressful environment. Things like, boundary setting, communication skills, how to take the time and how to care for yourself properly. but also talking a little bit about the alternative career paths that are available to us, because I think a lot of people do get really stuck in the one profession and, in one job, and feel like they can't leave. So that's kind of the goal of the retreats, is to offer a vacation and help equip people with the tools they need to better cope in the veterinary industry.
How do people find you? Are there still openings for the retreat?
Yes, we currently have 2 openings left, and we are now taking people's emails for the next one, because it has gained more traction than I originally anticipated, which is really good. It shows that people need it, I think, and that hopefully it can really help people. So people can find me on my website. It's vettails.com. And for the veterinary retreat, it's vettails.com/vet retreat. So it's fairly easy to remember.
Now, is this tail Tail or Tale?
Yes. Yeah, no, play on words, Tails.
Tails. All right.
Wag. Because we're happy
exactly.
after we go to a retreat and do some yoga and mindfulness and all of that. Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, I totally get that too, that like, because Scott and I are, I think he's probably about to say the same thing. We have the same thought of wanting to give back and share our passions and our expertise to help make veterinary medicine better. Scott has talks on time management. I have talks on the use of humor in the exam room. So that really speaks to us, I think, about really wanting to give back in that way as well, and to show people that there's more than one way to be a vet. There's, it's not just be in a clinic, in a small animal clinic. And if you do that and you decide that's not for you, that's okay too.
No, I was actually going to go a different route and just tell you that. So this is a moment to elevate our guest, which is, this was kind of a last minute episode when we saw, and heard about you. We're like, we need to get her on. I think our listenership, we have a lot of early career veterinarians, and I'm seeing a trend where I feel like now that we're, older veterinarians, sort of in the twilight years of our profession, I don't always feel good about the profession we're leaving to the next generation. And we have a lot of early career vets and a lot of veterinary students, technician students that listen to us. And I think that what's so inspiring about your story is that you saw some things that were hard for you to justify, right? That long term, I can't continue to do this. I want to make a difference. And you did it. I'm sure that had to be terrifying, but how inspiring for these younger people that maybe they get to a point where they think maybe this profession isn't for me, rather than saying, I've got this amazing degree. I can make this huge difference in the world for animals, for people, simply by going out there and finding a way that I can give back with this degree I have. And that's what you did. That's so inspiring. So thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It is, I definitely think that is, like you said, a big thing with the veterinary industry, is that people don't recognize how many paths we can take. So even though you're unhappy in one specific element of it, it doesn't mean you need to give up the entire degree or your passion for helping animals. There's so many options available to us. And I think just knowing about those options, and like you said, having the courage to perhaps pursue it, is probably actually the hardest part. Definitely, it was terrifying.
Yeah. And if you see something out there that you want to do and no one's doing it,
just do it. Start.
Forge your own path. And
no, definitely.
And there's a way.
Well, I've also found that veterinarians like yourself have been so supportive of other veterinarians who are doing the same thing. And I don't know if you've found that, but like being on social media, every time I've reached out to another veterinarian, they've always been supportive and always wanted to help lift up other veterinarians. So if you're out there listening and you're not sure if what you're doing is right or something isn't feeling right, you can reach out. You can reach out to us for sure. Send us a message, and more than likely, we will send you a message back. We'll talk to you. It's a small group of people, veterinarians in the world, and we tend to stick together. So, it just makes me feel warm that that you're taking that time for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. Same goes to me. I'm always really happy to. I've actually in the last year been contacted by 3 vets who are getting sailboats and are looking at doing something similar to me. So it's really cool to like see see other people pursuing something similar. I had another woman contact me who wants to do something similar, but via van instead of boat. Yep. And I was like, that's probably a smart idea because boats are a pain.
I think now we're
they say boat is an acronym for break out another 1,000. Right?
Yeah, it does
Constantly
feel like that
paying.
sometimes.
Maybe the next thing would be Admiral Dr. Sheddy.
That would be cool, yeah.
Right? Admiral, hey, if you're now the captain, you're in charge of promotions, right?
That's right.
Yeah, that's true.
Just need a couple more boats.
Any final thoughts? It's it's amazing what you've shared today, and exciting that you are forging your own path and finding your way in vet med. Any final thoughts for our listeners that you'd like to share?
I think we pretty much summed it up, like you said. If you have a dream and you can pursue it. I think that's the big thing is don't be scared to pursue your dream and find your own pathway. Because it really, for me, there's definitely been moments it's been hard, and like any career, there's it's never just always easy, but it has been so worth it. The rewards of knowing I'm helping people, but also kind of getting my life back and having that work-life balance. It's really, really great. So you can do it too, basically.
So where else can people find you?
So we have a long list of socials, and for some reason they're all different. So be ready. So on Instagram, I'm Dr. Sheddy the Sailing Vet. So you can find me there. On YouTube, we're under Vet Tales Chuffed Adventures. And we also have our Patreon page, which is where we get most of our funding from. So it's a monthly subscription, and patrons get extras, like we give them live updates and share a little bit extra behind the scenes and things like that from the YouTube channel. And that's patreon.com/Chuffed Adventures. And everything from the Patreon goes towards funding our veterinary projects.
All right.
Great message.
Yeah. Well, let's toast to following your terrifying dreams that you know nothing about, and you're going anyway.
You can make it work.
Who's better than Australians to teach us about being adventurous and worldly?
Oh my gosh.
We do our best. Yeah.
Cheers to you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for joining us for drinks and a conversation about veterinary medicine and our beloved animals. The Vets Unleashed podcast is wholly owned by the Vets Unleashed LLC with excellent production by Earweevil Audio. For more information about us, head over to thevetsunleashed.com. And as always, don't take advice from people who've been drinking.